Well, Germany has had full employment for some time now, and yet its impressive economy hasn't stopped discontent brewing as Chancellor Angela Merkel prepares to stand for re-election. For more on this, we're joined by Ansgar Graw, senior political correspondent for Die Welt newspaper. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So as we heard, their GDP growing at its fastest rate in 5 years. So what are some of the key factors in Germany's economic performance of 2016?
The key factors have been growing spending, and that's a little bit concerning us since normally Germany has an export-driven economy, and this time it's spending, household spending, it grew by 2%, but especially the government spending grew by, I think, 4.2%. And that's kind of a concern since it's not sustainable. If you have increased spending, in the end you have to pay back, and this spending is a result of the influx and inflow of so many migrants and refugees to Germany and to Europe, and that increased the spending of the government.
So with that being said then, as we look at the data, is it still fair to view Germany as EU's growth engine?
There are other countries with a higher growth rate than Germany. For example, United Kingdom has 2.2% or so. Sweden has a higher growth rate. I think even Spain has a little bit higher. They are coming from a different level, and therefore Germany does quite good. But I think the one secret of Germany's growth rate is the interest policy of EU that has some merit benefits, but also advantages.
As we look at some of the challenges that could perhaps be facing Germany, let's also start with the impact of Brexit on Germany and this whole idea of a united EU. How do you see that playing out for Germany?
There was a survey, and Germany's entrepreneurs said in an overwhelming number, I think 90% or so, that they don't expect any impact from the Brexit on their business. Therefore, I think on the economic side, it won't be such a big impact, but I think there will be a political impact. And London and Berlin were two key players in regard to market-driven economies, and not so much to distributed or distribution within the Eurozone. And I think therefore we are losing a very important partner for our kind of policy.
And speaking of politics, we know that the migrant and refugee crisis was obviously a huge issue in the EU, and we saw that the actual number coming to Germany fell significantly in 2016. So how do you see the crisis affecting Germany going forward, especially since we don't know what's going to happen with the EU-Turkey deal?
Yeah, the number is lower, much lower than in 2015. But nevertheless, I think we have nearly 600,000 immigrants and refugees in 2016 in Germany, and that would be 6 big cities, 600,000 people cities. That's still a lot, and the population, the society is divided. Some think, as Chancellor Angela Merkel has said, we can do it, we will make it, and others are afraid that we won't be able to integrate and assimilate so many people, so many migrants who are coming at the same time in a very short period.
Now, as we look at Angela Merkel, let's also look at some of her economic policies. We know that her economic chief challenged her recently. We have elections coming up. How do you see all this playing out for Germany's growth outlook then in 2017?
In 2017, we have not only in Germany, but in a number of European states, elections. We have it in France, for example. We have it in the Netherlands. We have it in Germany. And we know that all those elections will confuse the markets, and therefore there is a lot of confusion to be expected. And that, I think, is the most important part. In regard to the outcome of the election up to now, I would say the Grand Coalition built by Angela Merkel and her CDU and the Social Democrats with her challenger, Mr. Gabriel, who is now Secretary of Trade and Commerce. I think in the end it will go on, and they will have to have another term together.
Right, well, we'll certainly have to watch and see. We'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. Ansgar Graw, Senior Political Correspondent for Die Welt newspaper. Thank you for joining us.